Welcome to Open Door Live. I'm Vince Robinson, and it is an extreme honor and pleasure to welcome to this show someone that I've known for years. I've known him ever since he was a young fella. Now he's all grown, got folks graduating from college and doing other great things. But we're going to talk about some of the great things he's doing. So let us welcome to Open Door my good friend, Mr. Rodney Collins. Rodney, how you doing, bro?
Hey, man, I'm doing good, brother. Thank you so much for bringing me on your show. It's so good to reconnect with you, man.
Absolutely. It's good to connect with you after all of these years. How long has it been, man?
Man, as far as working together, it was like, I think 2002 is when I left operations and went into the whole agency world. So we would see each other in passing, but 2002 was the last time we actually like worked together a lot. So it's been 18 years, man, long time.
All right. Well, we're not going to mention the name of the company that we used to work for, but let's just say we were good neighbors. We were good neighbors, and now we have different neighbors, and we're living to tell about it. So I'm going to leave it at that. But So it was somewhere in the early 2000s that you made your migration from Cleveland to where you are now in California.
Well, actually, after I left, where we was working, I started my own business in the Cleveland area, and then I worked vocationally in Cleveland as a minister too for several years before leaving. So I left Cleveland officially in 2016, officially, like gone without coming back at all.
Okay.
Yes.
So just for clarity and just so that folks get a good chance to hear your story, you started out in Toledo and then you eventually moved to Cleveland and you had a collegiate experience. So let's bring folks up to date for the path of Rodney Damon Collins from this person who aspired to be an actor when he was living in Toledo and then actually going through all the employment paradigms and college education and then ending up in California living your dream.
Man, I'm so looking forward to sharing this story. I think my senior year in high school, when I wrote my first sketch comedy, that's when I really knew I wanted to work in the industry. And I just didn't know how it was going to happen, but I was really excited to see it come to pass one day. So after I went to college, I went to Bowling Green State University. That's where I graduated from. BGSU, baby. I'm a Falcon. And then I took a job at a company that moved me up to Cleveland, Ohio. At the time, I was engaged to an incredibly strong woman who I am married to as 25 years. We're still married and loving each other. But I took this job, and this job, I remember walking into this job the first day of work. And, it was like after I left that office, I had the sickest feeling in my stomach. Like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I already know this is not what I want to do. I know what I want to do, but I didn't pursue it as much because I had different pressures, being first generation college. I was just excited just to get a degree, but I know what I should have studied. But at the time I was just like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do this because it's going to, assure me an opportunity to get a good job. That's how I was raised. Go to school, get a good job, raise your family. So I was doing the right things according to how I was raised. But I worked for this company in one department, operations, for just about seven years. And then after that, I took an opportunity to branch out and as an extension of the company. And it was pretty cool to do that because I started gaining entrepreneurial experience. And what it did is started sparking my desire once again to be in the industry that I am in now. But I still knew at the time I couldn't do that because I had a young family and I had responsibilities. And I always had this conviction that if it's truly meant for me to be, it'll come to pass in the right season of my life. And I need to, be present in the moments of life that I'm, currently in. So at the time, father with two young children, I'm not going to take my family through the craziness of the entertainment industry. So I held on to this, really good job and, built this business. Then after that, I had this calling in my life to really go serve people. And I took a calling to go work vocationally as a minister. And I did that for 8 years. That was pretty cool. What I loved about that is that it allowed me to travel and experience life in different ways. I went over to Monrovia, Liberia during that time, participated in building projects for the school, built incredibly strong relationships that to this day, the relationships are still there. And what it did is it really showed me that what really mattered in life, because over in Monrovia, there's an immense amount of poverty, but there's still an incredible amount of joy, which kind of surprised me. The fact that, in the United States, our whole thing is like, if I don't have money, if my bills ain't paid, whatever, I'm not happy. The people I met and people I encountered and on a daily basis had a joy that didn't come from, material things or, their circumstances. And also, it reminded me the fact that life is short and that there's some things I really want to do in this life. And if I don't do them, I'm gonna have that what if at the end. And I never want to be that person lying on my deathbed, if God gives me the opportunity to do that, with this regret in my mind. Like, man, I know I had the ability to do this. I know I should have done this, but I kept using, excuse after excuse after excuse. So my time in Africa really sparked a lot of that in me. So after coming back, shortly after that, I worked for another nonprofit in Cleveland for a couple more years. And then an incredible offer came to me and my family to relocate out to Los Angeles, which I used to go to LA a lot as a kid. I have family here. I love it here. I love the sun. There's sun 325 days a year on average, and I need that. I need that at this point in my life. So it's much more than entertainment. But so I took this job offer. I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna move out here. I'm gonna start this job and just, really just enjoy living in Cali. I was like, if I work in entertainment, cool. But most importantly, I finally got to the destination where I wanted to live. Many of the people who worked with me in corporate America know I wanted to live in California. From the time I left college, a lot of people have reminded me, it's like, man, you used to tell us about this all the time, and now you're actually living there. And I'm a firm believer that you have to believe it, you have to speak it, and you have to see it, because if you can't see it, it's not going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but this job moved us out here. But the crazy thing about this job is that 6 months after bringing me here, they had to lay me off. And I'm like, oh, okay. This layoff thing, I had never been laid off in my life. I've been employed since I was 16, always working and doing something. And it was really a major blow to me. I'm just like, man, what do I do with this layoff period? And so during that time, I processed with my wife, and she was like, we're here. This is where we've been wanting to be. And we started seeing doors open in the field of entertainment, because I started connecting with people in the field. So we just decided it's time to bet on us. No more looking for jobs. Because I took a little period and I started putting job applications out and resumes and stuff, and really not getting much feedback. And then the ones that will come to me, I knew they would be the ones I would not want to do. So I decided to bet on me. And for the past 5 years, our family has been growing. I've watched my acting career, my producing career, directing career grow tremendously within a 5-year span. So I'm very grateful for where I'm at. And the sky's the limit right now. Well, not even the sky, man. The universe is the limit. So that's a little cliff notes.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. As you were telling the story, I couldn't help but wonder what it was like for you to put your feet on African soil and to see what you saw, and just wondering if there was any transformationality, if I could make a word up. But was there any kind of a transformation that happened for you as you made that trip and you finally came to that place that you had heard about but had never been?
Man, Vince, when I got to Africa, and I just, especially we had a day at the beach, like a day to relax while we were on our service trip. And I remember just standing there looking at the coast and how beautiful it was and untouched. I remember just kind of breaking down in tears, because I'm like, man, this is the land where my ancestors were taken from. This is me. And I remember connecting with the people that we were spending time with in Africa. And one of the questions somebody asked me, they said, well, where have you been? And I was just like, what do you mean? They said, you don't like us? And I was like, I was like, please, I need you to make it clear. And they was like, you don't come here. African Americans, you don't come over here. Is it something you don't like about us? This is where you're from. This is your home. We're your people. And I just broke down, man. I was just like, it's a little emotional now thinking about that time, because I have a lot of videos from that time and I still look at it from time to time. But to be welcomed, to be told this is really your home. You are accepted here. You are loved here. It was pretty overwhelming at the time. And because most of the time people who go over to Africa, they don't look like you and me to participate in anything. Really, we'll go vacation to the Bahamas, we'll go vacation to Europe, Asia, wherever, but we won't go to Africa for some reason. And I think it's something that every African American, before they leave this world, need to go at least once and spend some time in the true motherland. My wife and I, we are going to go back. We plan on eventually buying land, either in Ghana or somewhere over there, and building a home. So we'll have a place that from time to time we can spend significant amounts of time over there, because it really did bless us. And I feel connected to Africa.
Yeah. I had to ask the question because I like to dispel notions that people have, their false notions that they have about how folks on the other side of the planet feel about us. Mm-hmm. And there has been an intentional effort to drive a wedge between us, mm-hmm. so that we don't really connect in any real way. So I just wanted you to share that experience, just so that folks know that, no, they wonder what happened to us. And our reality is that we're the strongest of the strong. For some of them, they look at us like we're the heroes because they have an understanding of what we went through and where we are now. And it's just so ironic to me, as someone who has been to Africa several times, mm-hmm. to hear how they perceive America. They think of America as being the land of opportunity, that you come here and you see your dreams come true, and the present circumstances are that if you come to America looking for a job, you come here to stand in line for everybody else is waiting for a job, because the jobs are disappearing every day. So, America may at one time have been the land of milk and honey, but if you pay attention to what's going on right now, it's not that. It's the land of milk and honey for people who have something. But for the folks who don't have something, it's not the land of milk and honey or opportunity unless you make a paradigm shift that you made. You came to a conclusion in your life that, hey, I got to take care of me because I can move all the way out here. And then within 6 months, I can have an employer say, well, you're on your own. And then what did you do? You moved to one of the most expensive places in the country to live,
Yeah.
But the triumph is that 5 years later, after having been let go from a job that saw you move to the side, you're still standing. Talk to us about the process that you took to get to where you are now, so that you could walk away from something that was seen as, to some, the only way that you can possibly make it.
Man, I love this story because I don't think Hollywood could write a better story than what's been going on in my life. But when I got laid off, and I was like, wait a second, I'm intelligent. I'm pretty hardworking. So I was like, LA is just another city. Yeah, it's expensive here, but it's no different than any other challenge. And when I look around Los Angeles and Los Angeles County, there's 10 million people living in Los Angeles County. If I'm correct, there's about 11 million in Ohio. So the county of Los Angeles is larger population-wise than the state of Ohio. And I'm like, if all these people are finding ways to survive in here, I'm looking at, they got homes, they got cars, they live in. What makes me different? I was like, I'm just as good as they are. And my family is just as good as they are. We know how to handle ourselves. We know how to work. So when we started that belief in what we can do, you know, it's like definitely my faith played an important role with this whole thing too, because I had to believe that one, the door was open for us to come here. So if a door is open for us to come here and certain things like that happen, like it's not for you to turn around and run, but it's for you to really see what's inside you, what you really can do. And so that's what my wife and I decided. We was like, you know what? We better than this. We're not leaving here. We're not turning around. We're gonna live here. We're gonna build a life. We're gonna have an incredible life with our family and empower our children to do more. And I firmly believe that I wanted to leave a legacy. And leaving a legacy to me was not going back to get a job, a 9 to 5. It was like, you know what? Now it's time to take ownership of my life and take personal responsibility. So I became an author. I wrote a book entitled Shatter, The Journey Through the Pieces. And during that book, I share some of the story of where I'm at now and how I had to really build upon, you know, all the different disappointments I experienced in life to really get to this point in my life to do what I love. So I would tell everybody, my first step was really, man, we got to believe in ourselves. And if everybody else is out here able to handle this, why are we not able to do it? So, you know, I went out, I started building relationships. I'm the type of person where I'm not going to sit in the house and pout. I'm going to get outside. So for about a little over a year and a half, I humbled myself and I did certain jobs that I had to do in order to survive here. I started Lyft driving. I started employing myself, you know, as a speaker, you know, volunteering places. I got out in the community so I can meet people. And, you know, I'm meeting Journey Smollett, getting in my car, you know, because I'm out hustling by Warner Brothers Studios, meeting people. That's what the whole thing is about. It's no different than any other company, like career, that you got to meet people. Every job I've gotten in my life has been because the employer knew me. They knew who I was. They didn't hire me just because because of a resume. They hired me because they knew who I was. So I got out and I started building relationships. And another thing I did, I humbled myself and I did background work for a little while out here. And for those of you guys who may not understand, background work in the entertainment industry as an actor, if you watch a TV show and you see a bunch of people walking behind the actors and not really talking, whatever, those are background actors. A lot of these actors are people who are aspiring to really have full-time work vocationally as actors. So I did that. And I remember one of my first days of background work, I'm standing at they took USC's basketball arena, the show Scandal. I was hired to work on the show Scandal background. And I'm standing there in my spot that the second AD, which is second assistant director, had pointed to me, said, "Hey, we want you to stand here for this part of the scene." So I was like all suited up. What was real cool, I got to set. They had a suit ready for me because, you know, they try to make sure everybody looks good. So I was like, oh, I like this suit. It was tailored, you know, everything. I'm standing on the spot. The next, you know, I see some people walking down the back corridor. And, you know, they're walking real fast. You can see somebody doing makeup and everything. I was like, yo, who's coming down this aisle? It's Kerry Washington. I was like, oh, Kerry. Yeah, I was like, she here today. Next thing you know, they walk Kerry all the way up and stand her right next to me. And I'm like, yo, oh. So I'm standing there. I said, hey, what's up? You know, I was real cool because I'm not a starstruck person because I believe in who I am too. I respect what they've achieved, but I try to look at myself. One of my mentors, who's Jim Pickens, he's on Grey's Anatomy. He's Dr. Weber on Grey's Anatomy, but he's actually from Cleveland also. But he always told me, he said, you got to believe that these are your peers, you know, your colleagues. Don't be starstruck and in awe when you get around them. So Kerry walks up, stands right next to me. I'm like, hey, what's up, Kerry? How you doing? And I introduced myself, and she was very nice. And she was like, hello, I'm Kerry. And I didn't know that she was going to be standing next to me for the next 10, 12 hours running this scene, you know, with everybody else. So I was just like in awe because I got a chance to have firsthand from the lead on the show and how she's handling herself on set. And then who comes walking past me? Angela Bassett. She come walking past me because she was helping to direct that episode. I'm sitting there like, wow, okay. And I said hello, and she was real sweet. She was like, hello, sugar. So I was like, yeah, you know, just real nice and cool. And I was like, oh man, I said, okay. It was just a warm environment, and that made me feel even more welcome. So the next day on set, I had to go back and work another day. And so I've always believed that, once again, I got to speak it. I got to believe it. I got to put it out there and trust that God is going to open the door. I'm standing by the trailers because I was like, you know, I'm going to start a little thing here. Whenever I walk on the set, I'm just going to start thanking God in advance for these trailers, for these opportunities as a lead actor. So I'm standing by the trailer. I say a little prayer real quick. And as I'm walking away from the trailer, Joe Morton comes walking out the trailer, who played Kerry Washington's father on Scandal, walks up to me, shakes my hand. He was like, young man, you're going to be fine. And then he walks in. I just looked, I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. So those types of things started helping me to believe and know that, you know what, I'm going to be all right. I have to just show up every day, and I have to go out and make things happen. It gave me the confidence. So those, you know, after doing that, then I started building relationships, because when I would do the background work, I would actually try to see what production is doing. So when they would give us a break, I would actually talk to one of the assistant directors and say, hey, do you mind if I stand back a little bit and just kind of watch what you guys are doing? I'm not going to be in the way. And he looked at the oddest look. This was on NCIS, LA at the time. And LL Cool J was there on set, and I'm all pumped up because I love LL. You know, ladies love, but, you know, Rod loves LL too, man. And I said it there. I was like, he walks out and he's like greeting everybody. He's real cool. LL was real cool. And little bit known to me, somebody I went to college with was one of the executive producers on NCIS LA, Joe Wilson. So he walks up to me. He's like, yo, you went to BG? And I was like, yeah. And I looked, I was like, yo. And he said, Rod. I was like, Joe. It was just like instant. And after that, he's like, yo, come hang with us. So he had me over hanging with the production, the execs and everything. LL was like, yo, this your man right here. It's just like that type of stuff started happening because I was showing up and I had the purpose that I'm going to make it happen here. And then I met this executive producer. He was writing a show for Amazon. And he actually used background one day just so he could finish the script that he was submitting to different networks like HBO, Amazon, and stuff like that. And so we got a chance to talk, got real cool. His name is Nico Sparks. And he created this show called Chosen Kin Origins, which is still airing on Amazon. I'm actually a regular on the show now. And it was really cool because I didn't think I would hear nothing about the show, but he calls me 6 months later after I met him. He was like, yo, you remember the show I was telling you about? Well, guess what? It got picked up by Amazon. I was like, good. I was like, congrats, man. I'm happy for you. You know, I'm rooting for a brother. He was like, man, I wrote a character for you. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I wrote a character for you. He's like, man, I just need you to just record a little something just so, you know, the other, you know, people, part of the other crew and production can see just who you are so they can know why I wrote this character. I was like, you need me to audition? He said, no, not necessarily. He said, unless you want to make it harder, we can make it an audition and bring other people in. I was like, no. I was like, no, I'll send you the video in, you know, of me doing the scene. And before you know it, I was cast on the show. And, you know, then 2 years later, I'm looking at myself on Amazon Prime acting. And you're talking about a confidence builder. Man, I couldn't do nothing but just laugh and smile. And I was training. I was taking classes and doing other things. So I was preparing for the moment. And the moment came and I was ready for it. So that's how we roll it.
Okay. So you just happened to casually mention having a mentor named James Pickens. How does that happen, bruh?
Hey. Also, an incredible mentor before I get into James, who is Bill Cobbs. The great Bill Cobbs is a very good friend of mine. And before I even talk about James, I got to talk about Bill, because Bill was the first person to pull me in when I moved here. And I got to thank Sylvia Stewart Lumpkin, who connected us. She called, Bill was in town and she knows Bill. And she called, you know, me and my wife, and she was like, you guys need to come over to my father's house. Bill is over there. And I want him to meet you all since you guys are moving out to LA. I was like, man, I was flying. I was like, let me get over there now. Sat down. While I walked in and saw Bill, you know, he's a legend. He's a GOAT. I did get a little starstruck when I saw Bill for a second because I was like, yo, I've been watching Bill for a long time. And now I'm sitting with this dude and just talking with him. And he gave me his phone number. He just was so nice. He was like, whatever you need when you move out here, give me a call. So once we moved out there, when we first moved out here, we ended up living closer to Bill. I didn't know he even lived in the area where we moved to. So I reached out to Bill, gave him a call, was like, hey, I'm in LA. He was like, come on over. I was like, come over? I was like, cool. Yeah, I went over his house and, you know, just incredible hospitality. And from that point, he and I started gelling and not just becoming mentor, mentee, but friends. And like, I would, you know, if Bill need to go somewhere, hey man, just give me a call. I'll take you to the event. So I started serving Bill because he was so nice to me. I wanted to really, you know, show my gratitude to Bill. He was like, come on over. I was like, come over. I was like, cool.
I got you on Facebook, man, and I see the comments are coming in. But I was oblivious to them because I don't have my two computers running.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. And then with Jim, I have to thank Marie Walker. She lives in Cleveland, Ohio, and the church I used to work at as one of the youth ministers there, she connected us. She was like, he's my brother. And I knew they were, you know, related because he had came to the church a couple times when he was in Cleveland. But, you know, I'm the type of person where I'm not going to try to, you know, leverage those type of relationships. I would rather the person just openly say, hey, I want to connect you all. And she was like, no, baby, I love you. And I want you to have all the support you need. So I reached out to him and James, I called him James and he was like, no, call me Jim. I was like, Jim? Okay. And once again, one of my last few days of doing background, I was working on Grey's Anatomy. And I'm standing like in one of the little corridors of the hospital waiting for a scene to happen. And while it's a break and, you know, Debbie Allen's directing the episode, you know, Nick Cannon's on the set. I'm sitting there like, yo, I was like, okay, this is just really cool. James comes walking down the corridor and he sees me. This is our first time meeting too. He sees me and he looks and he knows it's me and he walks up and shakes my hand. He's like, Jim. I said, Rodney. He's like, we'll talk later. Man, you wouldn't believe the number of people was like, what's up with that? How you know him? I was like, man. I was like, hey man, I didn't say favor ain't fair. That's all I could say. They was like, how you know him? I was like, man. And then we was taking pictures together after, just talking. So these type of people were being placed in my life. And I'm like, yo, I'm meant for this. This is my time to do this. My son and daughter are grown. My wife is in for this. Let's do this. So those are the types of things that have been happening.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's really interesting when we talk about degrees of separation, because once upon a time they said that there were 6 degrees of separation. You know, I'm really of a mindset that there are really only 1 or 2. So I met Bill Cobb.
Yeah.
More than once.
Good man, isn't he?
Yeah. I interviewed him at Caramoo.
Oh.
He was there. Yeah, he was there to do something, and I was working with his brother. This is probably in the early 90s. But anyway, I met him. I interviewed him. I think it was one of those interviews that we did, and it never really went anywhere. But the fact is, I interviewed him. I interviewed Ruby Dee.
Oh,
yeah, that interview did go somewhere because it was aired on local cable. But then a few years back, they did a Greater Cleveland Urban Film Festival.
Yes.
And Mr. Cobbs was in town for that. So I met him over at Shaker Square, and I took a picture with him in front of the restaurant Zanzibar when it was on the southwest quadrant of the square. And I happened to be acquainted with Neil Hodges. I'm sure you know Neil.
Yes.
Because Neil does what you do for Mr. Cobbs when he's here in Cleveland.
Yeah, I know Neil.
So yeah, so it's really a small world. And then James Pickens is a friend of mine. So I used to hear his name mentioned casually in conversations, just like you did it. So we would be watching Grey's Anatomy, or I was present because I wasn't really immersed in the show.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh yeah, him. Because I think they used to have a thing, so it was like he was the ex that I had to compete with. And how do you compete with somebody that's on an international show? but I never had any malice towards Mr. Pickens. I'm sure he's a good brother, and I'm happy that you were able to connect and he was able to be a benefit to your life. Yeah. I just want to kind of put, all these experiences that you've had into perspective, because you're in a place that people fantasize about. And, people look at these folks who are actors and they're on the international screen and all of that. But then you interact with them and you find out that they just regular people, just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. The difference is, they just have a greater level of visibility. How do you keep that into perspective for yourself, knowing that, you're on a show that is probably one of the most viewed shows on the planet? So a lot of people know who Rodney Damon Collins is. Mm-hmm. There have been comments in the chat, like Vicky or Oladeji says, yeah, he's down to earth. He's a friend of mine. How do you stay grounded in a place where people are worshiping the ground that other folks are walking on, and you are in the process of becoming one of those people?
Man, I love that question because I've always believed, and I was told a long time ago, never believe your own press clippings. To stay humble, to realize that one, we all just, we all do things the same way. We put our pants on the same way. We have life issues like everybody else. That I learned that no matter how big a person's bank account is, they can still be incredibly broken on the inside, just from life itself. The conversations I've had with a lot of these people, I won't say some of the names of some of the people I've encountered, but I've seen some people that a lot of people really admire who are extremely broken. And it's like, it's humbling. It's a wake-up call. Like, man, I've been in some of these Hollywood mansions, but then there's the emptiness with the person who lives. So once again, I go back to my time in Africa. The things that really matter in life are people, relationships. It's not what you have or what you do. It's how you make people feel when you've been in their presence. That's one of the things I live by.
Okay. So you also happen to casually mention that you wrote a book. And I'm just remembering, because we had kind of a pre-interview. We had a conversation and we connected for about an hour or so after not seeing each other for years and years. But you told me that you went through some challenges in terms of your mental state. So I want to talk to you about, the challenge that you met and the obstacle that you overcame to be in the place of peace and tranquility in your spirit that you're in now.
Yes. I thank you for allowing me to talk about that. Through my many exploits, trying to really find that filler for what I really wanted to do vocationally, I was trying to find a lot of things to fill that. It ended up breaking me emotionally and spiritually, ended up causing me to go into a depression. And I feel good that I'm actually at this point in my life, but for the past few years, I've been free to share it with people, because at one point, especially in our community, a Black man couldn't say, hey man, I'm feeling depressed, because they'd be like, yo, what's wrong with you? You got to toughen up. You got to do that. It's like, no, it's real. It's like, I'm hurting now. I'm trying to figure out what do I do with this? And I went through a depression, and this depression got so bad to, man, one day, several years ago, I'm very grateful I'm past that point, but I'm sitting on my couch in my house, and my wife is at work. My son and daughter was gone to school. I'm sitting there. And this is while we're still over England. And all these thoughts started hitting me about all the different things that have not panned out. So before you know it, I had grabbed the keys to my car, man. And my car was sitting in the garage. I was 1 second. I grabbed the handle from the car, get ready again. I was going to turn it on and just leave, man, because I was tired. I was so broken and I felt alone. All those years of giving out and pouring out. My family at one point, we were by ourselves. And I felt like, well, I got another way to help them out. I got this life insurance that's past a suicide clause. I'm going to go ahead and check on out and help my family out. And before you know it, while I grabbed the handle, my conscience was like, who's going to be the first one to see you when that garage door open? Is this how you want your son to endure difficult times? You want your son to follow the same steps you make? You want your wife to be alone? You want to break your family like this? And before you know, I'm sitting down by my car just crying. I was broken, man. I was like years of trying to do all these different things because I was trying to fill that void of what I really wanted to do. And it led me to that point. And then when my wife got home, I remember telling her, I was like, babe, I'm broken on the inside. And she just hugged me. You talking about the thing that a woman could do for a man? She just hugged me. She was like, baby, it's going to be okay. I'm with you. And when you hear that from your woman, when you're going through a difficult time, you talking about, oh, I can overcome this. We can do this. And then I told my son and daughter, I'm not going to hide this from them. They need to know how life can get if certain things happen and how you got to handle it. So I told them, and they was like, no, it was like, Dad, I'd rather honestly not have nothing than have you. And I was like, yo, this is just like the time in Africa. Because it's like, it's just like the whole thing, it boils down to your presence is what they really want. It's not anything you can give them. It's like people want you around because you dope, because you bringing value to their life. So I started seeing that. But I went through therapy after that, man. I went through therapy for a while. And then even after that, I still practice to this day the things I've learned in therapy, how to handle that so that I don't ever get to that dark place ever again, because I know that nobody is exempt. It doesn't take much to bring you there. And then before you know it, you're darker than what you think. I didn't even realize I was that dark until that moment sitting down in my house by myself. I didn't think I was just functioning. I was just kind of just moving around. I was like a robot for a while from that depression. And I talk about that in my book. It's called Shattered: A Journey Through the Pieces. And I called it that because there was a lot of broken pieces in my life, but those broken pieces have been put together to form this beautiful masterpiece that is my life now. And that's because I did open up and say, hey, I'm hurting. I need help. So I encourage people, men, women, if you're going through, don't go through alone. Find out, who your team is, who your village. The people who really for you, they are not going to judge you if you talk about what you're going through. If somebody judge you because you say you're going through something, they're not for you, and they got to go. That's how I live now. I was like, man, I live my life. I keep my circle very tight, and I'm very guarded with who I allow to speak into my life. So that's what my book is about, and I just share that journey with people, and that's some of the speaking that when I go on speaking engagements, I do that and really encourage people how to push through that, because especially during this time, a lot of people are dealing with depression and stuff.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You brought up your family, and I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to brag, because I knew you way back when, and then we had the conversation the other day, and you talking about your son, and he graduated from college, and when I knew you, it was like you just came out of college, now here you are with two grown folk for children. And two very instrumental people in your life in addition to your wife. So talk about your wife and children and how they have been such a blessing and a joy for you.
Man, first of all, let me just talk about my wife and brag on her. She is a queen. She is incredible. She is brilliant. She's better than me. She's the better half of me, man. She stands beside me. And she holds me up. It's amazing to have a woman to stand beside you like she is, and she's sacrificial. She gives. She loves. She's the essence of what a wife should be. That's I can break it down like that. And she's building her own business now as a result of us making these leaps. she had the courage to start building her own business and realize that, and eventually in a few years, I will be able to leave my vocation and do what I love because I'm watching my husband do what he loves. So that's encouraging to me because my wife is feeling it. And then my daughter, man, that is my baby girl. She is incredible. She has her own business already. She's an esthetician out here in Los Angeles. She has clients. She's just killing it. She just got engaged to an incredible young man. This young man is very gifted and talented, and they're forming this incredible power couple. And what's really cool about her fiance, he's from Cleveland also. And they grew up 10 minutes apart from each other and didn't really interact until we moved out here. So it's kind of interesting how all this story is coming together. So I'm proud of them. And then my son just graduated from Miami of Ohio, double major coming out. And he always said he wanted to work in the field of entertainment. But our agreement was, we need you to finish your education first. So then you can do whatever you want to do. But, we want you to finish this, get this paper out the way. So he did that. And now he's out here and he was like, Dad, this is what I want to do also. And he's better looking than me. He's taller than me, 6'1", looking good out here. And he's doing some modeling. We actually did our first job together officially last Sunday for a magazine. And you'll see that the magazine is actually over in Japan. But we're supposed to get copies of it. So when we get copies, we'll be putting it out everywhere. But it was just really cool to be able to work with my son. He and I are going to build our own production company now. And on top of us working, for different networks, we're going to have our own stories too. So that's our job. That's our dream, is to build out here, build this production company, tell stories, and man, help employ other people. That's what I really want to do. I want to lift other people up as well. So we just excited. I love my family, man. They're incredible.
Okay, so you kind of opened the door to the next question because you mentioned earlier in our conversation about directing. You just mentioned a production company. So obviously you're looking to do more than just show up on somebody's set and deliver some lines. So what is your vision for the future with respect to your talents and what you intend to do in the entertainment world?
Well, one thing, Vince, I knew once I started acting is pretty much similar to corporate America, that if I'm going to really have control and longevity, I got to get on the other side of the camera. I got to be a decision maker. I can't be the one trying to always, ask Hollywood or whoever to employ me. I got to be like creating my stuff. So I knew that from the jump starting out here, and my time in corporate America actually prepared me for that mindset. So 2 years ago, I was excited because I executive produced my first short film. And for anybody who's produced a film, it's costly. It's a lot of time involved. And I just jumped in there and I connected with a great director. His name is Dave Judy. He's a good friend of mine. He has Bluefield Studios. He has his own production studio. At the time, I didn't have a studio. So I just said, let me connect with him. And, I did projects for him. And in turn, he was like, man, I'm going to go ahead and shoot this for you, man. So I painted a vision. This vision was to have a spy film because I would hashtag myself Black James Bond, because I like action films. That's one of my things. I've always loved action films. And I want to see people like me be heroes in action films. So the first film I did is called Sleepers. It's a short film. And I was the casting director. So once again, opening the door for opportunities. The executive producer. I was the location scout. I found the places we're going to shoot at. And I worked as crafty on the day of the shoot. Me and my family provided the crafty. I went to the store, bought everything, set up everything. I was like, okay, this first time shooting, let me hold some of this stuff so I know what to expect and how to treat people as I produce more. So that was my first project. And then I've actually wrote and produced a couple of quick short films for my son now, which has really gave me the bug that I really want to write and direct even more. And I'm the type of dude, especially right now, I'm a write, direct, and act in just about everything I do because I love it. That side of the camera, I'm loving more, just as much as being in front of the camera.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense, man. When you do what you love, it's not hard to do what you do. you know, because the reward is from the doing. It's like, you know, you write that song and then you play that song and then somebody gets joy from the song that you played, and
Yeah.
that's the reward, you know. So that makes a whole lot of sense, bruh. Are there any specific projects that you can talk about right now?
Yeah, I just finished shooting a project in Vegas. It's entitled Incandescent Love. And we have 3 more episodes to finish shooting before it's going to be pitched as a full pilot to several streaming networks. It stars, I'm one of the leads in it, and uh, I act opposite actress Patrice Fisher. I play her husband. She plays my wife. Patrice Fisher has been in the game a long time. She's a veteran. It also stars several other big name actors. So it was pretty cool to come together. I had a chance to work with Howard Hewitt in the first episode of the shoot. It was nice to work with him as well. So this Incandescent Love is in pre-production for the final cuts and stuff. And then once it's done, it'll be out on one of the streaming services. You'll see me post it. And that's one of the projects I'm very proud of. I'm in the process of working on a Christmas film, a Christmas short film that's going to be coming out for Christmas time. Never done a Christmas short, so I'm excited to do that. And another independent project I'm a part of is a fan film. And I can't announce who I've been cast as yet until they officially release that. But I will be playing a superhero in a fan film, which that's why I'm trying to stay fit, baby. Keep these pythons.
So this is really amazing, bro, because you know, I've kind of dialed back from watching television. I'll be completely transparent. I make it a habit of doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
But I started watching Coming to America last night.
Mm.
And about 15 minutes in, I was like, I can't watch this anymore. You know, it was like you created this film and you got everybody watching it, but what are you saying with this movie?
Yeah.
You know, and when I consider the importance of us telling stories right now,
mm-hmm.
and the importance of the narrative,
yes,
and the importance of occupying the mind space of Black people around the planet,
yes,
this is what you give us? You know, I mean, there are so many stories that need to be told. So we reach back and we take a story and then we update it,
mm-hmm.
and we make it a platform for jokes.
Yeah.
And I get that. I understand, you know, we need to escape reality because our reality is so painful. I get it. And I get that people, you know, need to be entertained and they need to chill and all of that.
Yeah.
But I started watching that movie and I'm looking at the way they're depicting Africans and the way they're depicting African Americans, and I see all these stereotypes and setups, and you know, it was like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. Maybe I'll go back and try to finish it, but it was like, this is a rabbit hole that I could do without.
Woo. You know, I've heard some things. I haven't seen the movie just yet. Put it like this: when I saw the first Coming to America, with the way it ended for me personally, I was like, this is great. I don't need to see anything else from this movie. This story is cool. I'm good. I try to be very, you know, respectful of anybody else's art here, just because, you know, I still don't know the full slant of it, but I do respect where you're coming from. And the stories I want to be a part of, I do want the stories to impact you to the point of moving you to action. When I watched Judas and the Black Messiah, I was moved to action. I was like, my emotions was wrecked watching both of the characters. You know, it was just really hard watching that. It was a hard movie to watch, but it was also good for me. The Billie Holiday story I just watched, that's on Hulu right now. It's really good. It's heavy though, but it's good. And I love the acting in it. It's very real. I like comedy. I love comedy, but I think comedy should come with a message, something to give us that takeaway, especially in these days that we're living in, that we have a huge responsibility in this industry to tell stories that are not just for entertainment anymore. We really got to tell stories that are going to really paint accurate pictures of who we are, and and also show what we are capable of doing. So those are the type of stories I want to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Eddie Murphy is one of the best to ever do it,
He's a man.
And he's made some extremely impactful movies. I mean, Trading Places. That was an impactful movie because it showed you how wealthy people make their money.
And if you were funny.
And it was funny, but it made the point, And then you fast forward to The Distinguished Gentleman. It was a comedy.
Yeah.
But when you watch that film, now you know what they do in Washington. Now you know that a bird has two wings, a left wing and a right wing. But it's all the same bird, and they all working together, working the deals out, regardless of what side of the hall they're sitting on. Exactly. So it's very, very impactful. Boomerang, one of my favorite movies, man, because I love romance. I love comedy. You brought them together. Love don't live here anymore. I mean, that resonates with so many people. And in the end, I like a love story. So these two people came together, and he saw her as a beautiful person that she was. And, he didn't get distracted by someone who was just player, and he found real love. So I get it, And it's very possible that Coming to America 2, or whatever the story, the title is, maybe there was some redeeming quality in it.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a message in it. I couldn't stick with it to find out what the message is. But when I was looking at those stereotypes and the way they depicted Africans and the way they depicted African Americans and the whole enmity piece and having to have the antagonist to drive the story and the setups and all that, it's like, I just don't have the patience tonight. I just don't have it. Judas and the Black Messiah, I haven't seen. I intend to see that film just because I'm aware of certain aspects of COINTELPRO and the Black Panther Party and what they went through. Yeah. And I want to see what's in it for people who don't know about that.
Highly recommend.
That's the value in that film. I mean, when you understand that Huey Newton was a 20-something who was having a dramatic impact not only on his own community, but the communities across the nation. And you see the power that we have as people to take care of ourselves and to push away from what the government will do for us, because the government is only going to go so far. The government is not going to create conditions for everybody to prosper.
Nope.
Okay, that ain't going to happen.
America's a business.
Yeah, it's a business. So, I see value in that film, even though I haven't seen it, but I know there's a message in there for people who watch it, because if nothing else, they can see what America did to Black people during a specific time in our history and relate it to what's going on today. See? So, I think that there's so much value in the stories and the narrative, but I think that what we have to do is what you're doing. And that is to create that film, to create a narrative in a way that provides support to us as a people, because we've had someone else telling our stories the way they want to tell the story.
Right.
Even a film as important as Black Panther is or was.
Yes.
The story of Black Panther is a story about our ancestry.
Yes.
It's a story about how important our ancestors are to us and how they live in us today.
Yes.
Very important. And that scene where he goes and he visits his father
to the plane
in the other world,
yeah,
brother, that brought tears to my eyes. I'm sitting in the theater, and I'm just imagining myself having that conversation with my own father who was in that place right now.
Yes.
So that resonated with me. But what ruined that film for me was the CIA character. because, you know, it's like, okay, now once again, the white man comes to the rescue, flying a spaceship that he don't even really understand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if it were not for that, then Wakanda would have met its demise. So even in the midst of all that history that we got, even in the midst of all that culture that we got, then we got the CIA in the film. And see, folks don't know, but the CIA and the FBI are in Hollywood, and they operate in Hollywood, and they have impacts on the scripts and the screenings and all of that. So they had to leave that little piece in there to let you know, hey, we still in control, y'all. You know, so yeah, it was a beautiful film, but they left that little subliminal piece in there for you to chew on while you get all giddy and ecstatic about wearing dashikis and Wakanda forever and all that. They still left an imprint on the film. And that's why what you do as a producer and director and writer can be so impactful, because now the landscape has changed.
Yes.
There was a time where you had to have your film in all these theaters across the country, and you had this whole distribution paradigm that left folks out. You know, to go back to Eddie Murphy, My Name is Dolomite. Once again, an extremely impactful film, because you saw a black man who had a vision.
Yes.
And not only that, he did everything that he had to do in order to make it happen. He's sitting in that movie theater and he's watching the screen and he's looking around and seeing how people are affected by it. Yes. And he gets that idea in his head. Hey, what if I put us on the screen and we tell our stories? And then what happened? People were coming in droves to see this film that the major distributors didn't want to take a chance on until they saw that they could capitalize on it. That's when they say, let's break you off a little piece so we could get some of that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what it's all about, man. And, you know, it was DJ Quick that said, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
It don't. And
you know, but to go even beyond that, it has to be something that makes sense for us in order for it to have a real value to us. Because other than that, it's just making money for someone else and we're getting no benefit from it. So I want to just say about the film, and I don't want to be overly critical, but I know a whole bunch of white people got paid with Coming to America.
I'm pretty sure. And if you, from what I saw, the cast is majority African American, and that's pretty ironic.
Yeah.
But I tell people, Hollywood, this is the most influential industry in the world. What I've seen here, it's not banking, it's the storytelling that's controlling the narrative. So it's so important when we work here, we have to be so responsible with our content. We have to be very responsible. And what's really cool, like you said, is that there's so many other avenues now to get your content out. You don't have to wait for ABC, NBC, CBS, or the MGM, all them to say yes. Issa Rae is one of the producers, directors, actresses who has created one of the templates to follow. She created a series, a web series, put it on YouTube, built a huge following. Before you know it, submitted that. HBO was like, we want the show. We will pay. Started dropping money on her. And Issa Rae right now is one of the biggest names in Hollywood because she owned her story. And that's what it's about. It's like most of the people out here who are very successful have owned their story.
Yes.
I was like, I knew when I started the audition game, I was like, I can't do 40 years of auditions. I'll lose my mind. Audition only, waiting for you to say yes, maybe. He's not our type. He's not this. No, I appreciate the auditions. You like to book them because they help build your platform. But ultimately, you got to take those resources and use it to employ yourself. Use it to build your companies. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. When you talk about ownership, let's look at a few people who owned. Okay.
Yeah.
The first person that comes to mind is Flip Wilson.
Flip
Wilson owned his show. And really, he only had to do one show. All he had to do was a Flip Wilson show.
Yes.
Flip Wilson did good. Okay.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Another person who owned their show, Don Cornelius. Okay. Same thing.
Oh, love, peace, and soul.
Yep. You own the show, you make the money. So that's where it is. But see, we have this paper chasing paradigm that we're involved in. You know, you got a little musical talent. You can sing a little bit. You can rap a little bit. You know, you looking for somebody to sign you, right?
Yeah.
You chasing the contract. Well, what you don't understand is when you sign that contract, you're basically selling your soul.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Yes.
You know, and this is not just fly by night information.
Right.
There are so many people in the Hollywood industry and the recording industry who have sold themselves. You know, there are folks who compromise their sexuality in the interest of making it. And after they compromise themselves, they put themselves in a position where they're extremely vulnerable to the possibility that the secret will be told and they will be ruined.
There it is.
You know, this happens in Hollywood. It happens in the recording industry. If you go to YouTube, you can see all kinds of stories about people, you know, a lot of them are people who you know about.
Yes.
Who have been outed. You know, they got this whole Illuminati thing. You know, some people think it's conspiracy theory. You can think what you want. Right. But when you look at the content that we have on your television screens every day, you know that something is going on. Because there's a whole bunch of things on TV that we don't need to see.
It's glorious. It's very. Oh.
Last week before I watched this video, and there were brothers who were on, and one of them was somebody who was in that film or that HBO series, The Wire. And he was talking about how they introduced the character to him. And then you saw how the character evolved. So there were scenes that involved nudity, of course, and he's in prison, you know, because they got to put us there because that's, you know, all right.
That's where we belong, so-called.
Yeah, that's where we live. So, you know, first it was, are you okay with the nudity? And then it started escalating. Okay, now we want you to kiss a man. Now we want you to have this sexual relationship with this man, you know. And at a point, he got to a point where he said, okay, I can't do that. I can't do that.
I'm out.
But they write those things in because they want that to be depicted, you see. And then it becomes a part of a narrative that describes us and creates certain expectations about who we are. You know, so they're very intentional about depicting a certain thing that's not really in our interest, you know, and the only way that we can control that is if we wear the hat that writes the story that prevents those kinds of things that happen from happening. Now, it's not to say that those things don't happen,
right?
You know, because they do happen in real life, you know, but once again, at a certain point, we have to take control over how we define ourselves. You know, it's like in this country, we refer to ourselves as minorities. We have allowed that use of that term to define who we are. And every time we accept the label of minority, we are saying that we are lesser than something or someone who is greater than us.
Yes, we are. Yes,
that's what that term says. So if you accept that terminology, you're accepting subjugation.
Yes.
So when you stand up and you say, I'm not a minority, you can call that person a minority, but don't use that to describe me because that's not who I am. And when you put your existence, you know, on a global scale and you relate to yourself in connection to your family, you know, your ethnic family, and you realize, hey, wait a minute, there are fewer of them than there are of us. So why are you calling me a minority or minor?
Yeah.
I don't accept that term. That's what we have to do right now. We have to start standing up. You know, I watched a piece was about this man who was 104 years old.
Wow.
And he was talking about the fact that he's still trying to find his freedom. You know, and I'm like, but damn, 100 years. You know, I mean, we'll just take 20 years off of that. You know, and we'll take 18 years off of that and say, you know, when you became 18 and you finally came into somewhat of a consciousness of who you are and what you need to do. Yeah. So over the period of all this time, you've been asking for the same thing and you still don't have it.
Yes.
So the question in my mind was, well, what does it take for us to be free? Why is it that we are still asking for freedom when clearly it's been demonstrated that we deserve it?
Yes.
You know, we live in a country where we as citizens of this country have to ask for the right to vote periodically.
Especially after this last election. That is
yeah. and they're already saying that they're doing things to make it more difficult for you to vote.
Yes.
You know, so when does that paradigm change occur? You know, when do they finally say, okay, well, y'all have the right to vote ad infinitum. We don't have to do this anymore. We don't have to approve your ability to vote anymore because you are fully vested in this country. You know, it's mind blowing. So again, I know we got off on a tangent, but
that's all right, man. That's an important tangent.
But yeah, I just wanted to underscore the importance of being that production company and to create products, and you know, so you can be Superman, a super brother, a super whatever, and do what we can do, what we're capable of. Because the fact of the matter is, we all are superheroes when we choose to be.
Yes, we are. Hey,
but we have to make that choice.
I'm living the story.
Yes.
You know, I had to take ownership. And when you talk about that, I think about Chance the Rapper too. He's one of the I don't listen to a whole lot of, you know, different music. That's like the newer music. I respect it, but I can't connect fully with it. But Chance the Rapper is somebody I highly respect because he owns all his stuff. Independent artist, never signed with the record label. A lot of people don't know that. And this man is you know, doing well for himself and continuing to build. I think about LeBron James. You know, LeBron out here too. You know, LeBron followed me out here after I moved to the side. He go ahead and come on out. You know. So,
yeah.
But the fact that he has his own production company and they're telling their own stories and he's controlling the narrative. So when people try to come down on somebody like LeBron, I get upset. I'm like, yo, why are you putting this man down? He looks just like us, and he's trying to put us up there. And you sitting there putting the man down? Come on, man, let that go. I was like, man, everything, you know, it's just hard because sometimes we become our own worst enemies. You know, we really do.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, LeBron, he's not trying; he's doing.
That's right. That's right. He's doing it. He's all the way done. He's doing it. Yeah. That's a good word.
Yeah.
He's doing it.
Yes.
I love what he does. You know, one day I hope maybe we'll connect and we'll work together. I don't know, but I just believe that my path out here, I love it, and it gives me so much energy every single day. I don't have one day that I wake up and be like, man, I kind of regret what I did. It has nothing to do with, you know, my upbringing in Ohio or not wanting to be in Cleveland. None of that. It's because I'm functioning in my purpose, man. And when you function in your purpose and your gift and your calling, there's another level of energy that hits you and another level of drive and hustle that is really, it just can't be measured. It can't be measured. I'm like, man, I'm in probably the best physical shape that I've been in since I played football, you know, and my spiritual life, everything, all these things are just in line because I'm functioning. And that's what I want people to do, whatever they do with their life, man. I want them to have to be able to function in their purpose. If you work a 9 to 5, it's cool. I don't hate on the 9 to 5. But if you work that 9 to 5, make sure it's for the right reasons that you work that 9 to 5. But still use that money to empower your family. I was like, man, this is our time. We need to take advantage of this.
Yeah. I think.
Sorry, I started preaching a little bit. Sorry,
That's all right, because you preaching a sermon that needs to be heard. The whole idea of working a 9 to 5. One of the reasons that we work that 9 to 5 is because we have debt that we have to pay. And our purpose, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think when you have that epiphany and you understand what your purpose is and you apply yourself to that purpose, then money ceases to be an issue, because the universe expands. It opens up to the possibilities for the use of your talent. Yes. And the use of your talent is actually what rewards you. The use of your talent is what has enabled you, along with the support that you've received from your wife, to be able to live in your purpose. So that's such an important thing. And people really need to explore what that is, because so many people, they live an entire life without really knowing why.
Yes.
They don't know why they're here. But when you find out why you are here and you can apply yourself towards that why, that's when you begin to receive the rewards in life.
Yeah.
Bruh, I walked away from a job just like you did. My job, they kind of excused me too. Because they said, well, you getting a little long in the tooth. And we know that we can pay some younger people to deal with the headaches that we're giving you. So why don't you step aside and let them fill in for you right now? And then it was the whole usury aspect of insurance. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I was kind of putting it into perspective. Been in a house for 28 years, never filed a claim, but I paid premium over the course of 28 years. Now let's say my premium was $2,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. That means that I have basically put $56,000 into a pot. Okay. Yeah. Now, if my water pipe leaks and I get a stain on the ceiling and the drywall has to be repaired and the ceiling has to be painted and the carpet has to be cleaned, that might cost $2,000 or $3,000, maybe less. Okay. If I file a claim for that, the company is going to say, oh, you're a bad risk. So let's forget about the fact that you've already put $50,000 into this pool of money that we've grown to $200,000. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But you used your insurance policy, so we really want to part ways. So you got to go, even though you gave us all this money that we made the money on, Right. When that light bulb went on in my head, I'm like, why am I here? And then, the last year was one of the most difficult years that I had because it was the year that my father made his transition.
Yeah.
And I was involved in making the arrangements for his funeral, so I had to take some time off. And despite the fact that I took the time off, I still met all of my quotas. I still met the expectations, but they found something that they could say was wrong with my performance. And they penalized me in a way that I had never been penalized before. And I'm like, okay, so you took the worst, I'm not going to call it the worst year of my life, but one of the most challenging years of my life. And this is the perspective that you put on it. So after that, I was like, okay, y'all showed me how much you really care about me.
Yeah.
So when I heard that I could get 60 days of vacation pay for retiring on May 31st.
Yes.
And I was in that meeting in Miami and the HR rep said that. The first thing I did was I made a beeline to her, and I got a confirmation about that.
Yeah.
The second thing that I did was I made a decision at that point in my life. We out.
I'm gone.
Bruh,
I'm jumping out of here.
We left the hotel to go to a restaurant to have lunch, right?
Yeah.
Man, I'm skipping. I'm like, yeah.
It's a different step. It's a different step.
Yeah. And the truth is, I left a lot of money on the table. I left 5 years worth of pension on the table that I could have collected, so I could have been getting a bigger check had I waited until the age of 62. You know, and then there was all the money in the 401k and the matching and all of that. But see, all that is a game too. It's all a game.
It all is.
And when I look at what happened in those 5 years that I left early, there is no way that I would take those experiences back.
No.
The best thing that I ever could have done was said, okay, I'm leaving that field and I'm going to start living in my purpose. So I'm sure this happened for you during the pandemic. It happened for me, you know, in the past year. I mean, look, we're doing television on YouTube, live on Facebook.
Yeah.
I couldn't have imagined doing this last year. I'm sitting here in the comfort of my living room.
With that nice piano back there.
Yeah. In the comfort of my living room, directing a television show, you know, and I never imagined that this could happen a year ago, and now here we are, you know. So I said all that to say that it is beautiful to live life in your purpose. Rodney, I congratulate you on your success, and I'm looking forward to, on those rare occasions when I do turn the television set on, I can turn it on and look at my friend doing this thing and telling the story that I want to watch and I want to hear. Okay.
Yeah.
So in parting, because we've been on for a few hours, not a few hours, actually an hour and 16 minutes, but we've been on for a minute, and I know that people have a relatively short attention span, so I don't want to disrespect them. I want to thank particularly Patricia Trott. She's living down in Atlanta, and she's been hanging on this trip with us. And I also want to thank my friend Oladeji for tuning in on Facebook.
What's up?
Thursday's Angel, she jumped in for a few moments. So I want to thank everybody that has watched this broadcast, and ask you if there's anything that you want to promote right now, if there are any podcasts or products that you want to pitch. You know, now it's time for the commercial. So the floor is yours, my brother.
Well, first of all, I can't express it enough that you opened up your platform for me, brother. I know we go way back, and it means a lot to me that we still, just when we talked before this and did like a pre-interview, it was as if we had not, you know, missed a beat.
Right.
It's like we're still talking, you know, in the office somewhere, just chilling. So it was amazing. That's what I love about the relationship we have, man. So I want to thank you for that. First of all, my book, Shattered, A Journey Through the Pieces, is available on Amazon. It's Kindle. You can download it. I am working on a fiction book, which is going to tell one of those stories, showing us the way we want to be seen. So I'm working on that as well. But, you know, it's a working title. I'm not ready for that yet. But Shattered, A Journey Through the Pieces. Also, I have a podcast, actually 2 podcasts. My wife and I launched one because we're finally ready to share our marriage and our journey with other people. And we feel like we qualified, just us. We feel like we are qualified enough. We've been married 25 years. We done put some work in. Now we can share with other people some of the stuff we've learned and how we had to grow. It's entitled Couple Matters. Couple Matters. Very simple. Couple Matters podcast. It's available on every podcast platform, the major ones, iHeart, Spotify, Apple. And then mine is the Produce Your Own Life podcast, which my man Vince is going to be a guest on very soon. And I love that show because it really is about personal accountability and taking ownership for your life, where we have to produce our own life. And also stay tuned for some upcoming projects. You can still go to Amazon Prime, catch me on Chosen Kin Origins. It's a superhero show. Original, my character is Dr. Watson. So I play a very authoritative government official, which I love that role on the show. We also are launching a few more projects. Incandescent Love, I'll be posting that. You can follow me on Instagram, Rodney Damon Collins. Facebook, you can connect with me. I have a fan page, Rodney Damon Collins. It says Rodney Damon Collins, actor, speaker, mentor. So if you want to book me for speaking engagements, I have that available. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy sharing my story. My YouTube channel is Rodney Damon Collins TV. Rodney Damon Collins everywhere. You type that in, you can find me. So thank you very much for viewing and just spending this morning with us.
All right, well, brother, I'm going to chat with you for a few moments after we conclude the broadcast so we can set up your podcast.
Yes.
And then with that, I'd like to thank everyone who tuned in today and check us out. You know, we do this on Saturday afternoons, somewhere around 12:15, 12:30. You know, I do a radio show before I do this show. So, you know, we got to make the transition from one stage to another right here in the comfort of my living room.
Love it.
But yeah, we'll do this again next week. And, you know, tune in. I mean, the brother's doing some great things. You know, there are things that are worth watching. You know, I did check out one of the scenes from one of the projects that you shared with me, man. And it's like, wow, man, this is my cat. You know, I'm waiting to see you step out with the gun and point at one of them bad guys that doesn't mean us well.
Yeah.
and show that part of the story. How about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know how to handle myself.
Yes. So continued success to you, brother. And I look forward to our next encounter when I get to answer the questions.
Yes.
It's always refreshing for me. I get a chance to talk, you know what I mean? Yes. Communicators want to do that. You know, one of our frustrations is not being able to say what we want to say. So I look forward to the conversation, and I wish all the best for you, brother. And we'll take it up next time.
Much
peace
love,
and blessings to all.